So I'm having these dialogues with my body. And
Sure.
And before I go into it, I tell my body, and this part of the self-coaching is, I tell my body, I'm going to take care of you. And I always do.
Welcome to the Redbeard Embodiment Podcast. I am your host, Alex Greene, and I'm on a mission to bring the power of embodiment to people all around the world. In this podcast, we explore how embodiment practices, trauma healing, and knowledge about the human nervous system can help us find our ground, discover new sources of meaning, and create connection in an ever-changing world. The deepest change is embodied change.
Awesome. Well, I am really excited to be sitting down today with Reneé Tillotson. And Reneé is in Honolulu, and I'm in Boulder, Colorado, where I usually record from. And just briefly about Reneé. Reneé is the owner and visionary behind a very cool multidisciplinary movement and meditation center in downtown Honolulu called the Still and Moving Center. And I was lucky to join last December. I was in Honolulu and gave some TRE workshops there live at the studio. It's a beautiful space. And I offered some online courses over the course of this past year in TRE as well. And in that time, I came to know what a unique organization Still and Moving Center is, and also what a unique story and journey Reneé here has had in the movement world, in the meditation world, and in the spirituality space. And so the purpose of today's conversation is just to hear about Renée's very interesting journey and the founding of Still and Moving Center and its mission and work in the world, and then also some other projects that Reneé is working on. She's developing a mindfulness movement coaching program. I might not have gotten that exactly right, but we'll talk about that. And she has a forthcoming book that she's been working on related themes. And so this is what I was hoping to sit down and explore today. But Reneé, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Oh, I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Very good. Awesome. Well, maybe we'll just start with I usually like to kind of start with backstory and things like that. And I was reading, we've had some conversations and I heard some of your journeys, and reading some of the newsletter, I've heard some of the recent things. And looking on the website, I got to see a bit of a snippet of kind of your own journey about early athletics was the way I understood it. And then sometime sort of midlife, kind of a return to movement via NIA, which sounded like a pretty interesting catalyst for sort of a next chapter of your life. But maybe you could just tell us a little bit about kind of what's important to know about your own background that led you to be curious about the body, be curious about movement, dance, and just tell us that story a little bit.
Well, I'd love to. Well, I do want to say right at the beginning a little bit about the present and the future, just so it's at the beginning of our podcast.
Right.
I am most recently the legacy founder of the Academy of Mindful Movement.
Okay.
And that is originally set up in order to take instructors, coaches of almost any movement discipline and train them to teach their own discipline with techniques of mindfulness, using that observer stance to allow themselves to self-coach, and even more importantly, to train their movers to be able to self-coach, because they're not always there with their instructors, their coaches. 99% of their lives, they're on their own. So how can we get our movers to self-coach? And really,
I'm highlighting this phrase self-coach in my mind because I want to unpack. I want to unpack exactly what that means. It's the first time I've heard that word. So later in the conversation, I want to.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that. And okay. So the name of my upcoming book will be Mindful Movement: The Art of Self-Coaching.
Okay. There we go.
I just want to put that there.
No, that's very good. Appreciate that. Cool. All right. Okay. Well, then rewind in history. Tell us how you became the visionary, mindful mover, self-coacher that you are today.
Well, I was a gymnast as a kid,
Right.
and I did that from ages 11 through 22. And I, in addition to performing competitively and being the team captain at high school and college levels, I wasn't like one of those elite headed for the Olympic gymnasts, but, it was something I found a great deal of satisfaction in.
Sure.
And I tend to have a high energy level, and I think that was a really good way to channel that physical energy. And it taught me a great deal of body awareness and self-discipline. And then I went on to my work life and getting married and having kids. And, I was one of those soccer, baseball, track, soccer moms, all our kids through all those different sports. And meanwhile, like, Mom just didn't do very much physically. And we began to have some real problems with our older son. And I just had the brilliance of our younger son coming up to me and going, "Mom, you should take an exercise class." And this was, the wisdom from the mouth of babes. Oh my gosh, you are so right. So I think I went that very day. I signed up at the YMCA, and here I am. I'm in my mid-40s. The only class I could figure out to take was a senior aerobics class because I was so out of shape. I had
Gotta start somewhere. Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere. So I take these hot showers or hot tubs before I could go to class, or I'd be spraining my muscles right and left in the seniors.
Right.
But pretty soon, I got back into, my body again. It moving. It felt so great. Oh, I'm doing it. And the seniors next to me are starting to go, "Who does she think she is?"
Right. You're getting a little high up there. Yeah.
I wasn't doing it like the teacher, like everybody else anymore.
Right.
So then a woman stepped in to sub the class one day. She said, "Hi, I'm Carmen. Take off your shoes. We're going to do Nia."
Okay.
We kind of all looked at each other like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And she started moving, and it started to feel really good in my body, and it was non-impact, and yet I was getting a really great workout. And there were different elements to it. There was the dance part, but then there was more like the martial arts, and there were things on the floor that were more, yoga, Feldenkrais-like. And pretty soon I just started following her all over the city, taking many classes a week. I just became an addict.
Yep.
Me a nut. And it went on for a little over a year.
Right.
At the end of one of her classes, she announced, "That was my last class. I am retiring from NIA."
Wow. Okay.
And I just had that really visceral feeling of when they say feeling the rug get pulled out from under you.
Right.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, how can you do this to me? Like, this is my joy. This is,
Yeah.
This is what gets me present in all the worries of the family and the business and all that stuff are left behind.
Right.
So I did my best to try to find somebody to take her place. and I wasn't finding anybody.
Were you in California at the time, or
I was in Santa
already?
California.
Santa Barbara. Okay, yeah.
Where we raised our kids, and so all of them are in high school by that time. And so anyway, I didn't find anybody, and I just thought, well, in case I don't find somebody, I think I better just get trained in this because it's way too good to be lost. The Y, it needs this program. I need this program.
Yeah. Yep.
So I went to Portland, Oregon, and I got my white belt training from the founders of NIA. I went straight to the source, which I always did for every belt level after that. I always wanted to get it pure as I could, right from the founders of the program. Totally. Debbie Rosas and Carlos Rosas.
Pause for a second, if you will, just for anybody who doesn't know what NIA is. Could you just give kind of just it's dance, it's movement, it's martial, but to give just a little window of something you're familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's fusion movement practice. It does fuse 3 of the dance arts, 3 of the martial arts, and 3 of the healing arts. Those healing arts include yoga, Feldenkrais, and Alexander technique.
I see.
And it's done barefoot to music. The first principle of NIA is the joy of movement. And I think that was absolutely life transformational to me. I have carried that with me, I think, ever since. It's difficult. I just can't imagine my life without being able to access this kind of joy.
The joy of movement. Yeah.
And it's done to what we call soul stirring music. There is choreography involved, and there's a huge invitation to move your own body's way. Find your body's way of moving this move.
Yeah.
So that is a really big key to moving mindfully. So that we have to tune into our own body sensation. We have to pay attention to what it's saying.
Right.
We have to adapt whatever movement is being modeled or cued by the instructor. We have to make it fit our bodies, right? How does my body fit into this movement? Make it mine.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can start moving it. We can start energizing that move. But we have to make sure it fits us first. And that's really important from a safety perspective. So that's what NIA was.
Yeah, great explanation. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I kept going, okay, that's good. I got that.
Yeah.
And I just kept getting pulled on and on and on. And so I am now as high as you can go in terms of the trainings. I'm a second degree black belt NIA instructor.
Okay.
And where I stopped is the next kind of chapter in the story. You could go one step farther and become a NIA teacher trainer.
Okay.
Training other people to become NIA teachers, right?
Sure. And
I was spending so much time in NIA headquarters taking all these trainings. I think, a little attention got attracted. So Debbie Rosas invited me to become one of the international teacher trainers. And at that point in time, there were only 14 in the world.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Well, quite an honor to be invited.
To be invited.
Yeah.
I had never aspired to that. That's not what I wanted to do. And yet a friend of mine says, Reneé, at least you have to consider it. This really is a big honor. So you have to think about it. So I spent the next several months preparing for an event that Debbie Rosas was going to have called Courting Your Destiny, where other people who had been invited to become NIA teacher trainers were going to go, and we were asked to court our destiny, like asking somebody's hand in marriage, right? Well,
Sure. Yeah.
am I going to marry myself to this path of becoming a NIA teacher trainer?
Right.
And in those few months of imagining transforming my life, because at that point in time, I was highly involved in our family's construction company.
Okay.
And I was going to have to go through 20 hours a week of training to become a teacher training. And I was going to need to travel the world. At least 4 times a year, I'd need to travel the world to go and give a NIA teacher training.
I see.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a life transformation.
Massive commitment. Yeah.
And if I can imagine changing my life like that, what else can I imagine? Like, it was sort of a question like, Reneé, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I potentially have the energy to do that. What else do I have the energy or vision for?
Yeah. And all the rest of my life, like, I had never had an ambition. I got out of college and all the rest of my family are teachers. I'll become a teacher.
Okay.
And then we had our 3 kids, and there were too many little kids in the house for me to put them all into preschool and pay for it.
Right.
My husband says, well, why don't you just join me in the construction company? Because, you probably make us more money that way than as a teacher when you go back to school. So,
Right.
okay, I did it. So then I went to the construction industry.
Yep.
And all those were fine. But all of a sudden, I had this, I forgot to tell you, after my first NIA teacher retired, within a couple weeks, I had this, I don't know what it is, like a vision, a voice, or something that told me, Reneé, you were born to dance. And maybe everybody else in the world is too. I didn't know about that, but I knew all of a sudden I was born to dance.
Okay.
Yeah. So I go to this.
This is coming to you in your mid-40s or something, right? This idea. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So now we're a number of years later. I'm 54, I think.
Yeah.
And I go to this event, Courting Your Destiny, to see if it's my destiny to become a NIA teacher trainer.
Right.
And we're in this room with crimson cushions. We're all sitting around in a circle. There's a vase of long stem roses in the center, and a box where we're supposed to put our answer about whether or not we're going to become NIA teacher trainers or whether we're going to remain NIA teachers. And so I'm just like having this quiet moment. And it was like, no, that's not my destiny. I have now made it to Honolulu. I've gotten my kids out of high school. I'm in this beautiful place. Why would I want to leave and go traveling all over the world when I'm here? What about just creating a studio that's a hub that people can come to? Why don't I do that?
Right.
And then within like 30 seconds, I realized, yeah, but it can't just be NIA. There's not enough people in Honolulu who want to be doing NIA full time.
Right.
So what is it that you love about NIA, Reneé, that could serve as the overarching umbrella?
Right.
That could go over everything that happens in this studio you're talking about.
Right.
I love that NIA is a moving meditation. For me, it's a moving meditation.
Yeah.
And I dive into it. I am so fully engaged that nothing else is going on. I just fully present in that moment. I'm carrying my intention for a class all the way through. I'm, aware of body sensations. And by the time I get out of that class, I am just so filled with joy. I just love everybody in the whole world. If you were right there, I'd be hugging you.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of glow that follows me around quite a while afterwards.
Right.
And, this moving meditation, I have never really felt particularly successful at sitting meditation. And so to discover, but I can access moving meditation.
Right.
Was just phenomenal. And I thought, I bet there are a lot of other practices through which people can enter
into
meditation.
moving meditation. Sure. Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's open a studio and pull all these other teachers from these different practices that could be done as moving meditations. And so that's what I did. Thank you very much. I will remain a teacher. Thank you so much for opening up this other idea of possibilities for me.
Yep.
Went home to Honolulu. I told my husband, honey, I'm going to be opening up a movement studio. You're what? Yeah, opening a movement studio.
Right.
He goes, well, why are you doing that? I just have to. And I just have to.
Right.
And it didn't take very long, really, for me to convince him this was something that was like a life destiny thing for me.
Right.
So it helped me create Still a Moving Center. It's a 6,000 square foot studio, 2 floors, a number of different movement studios, massage rooms, and so on in there, Honolulu. And that was in 2011.
Okay.
And here we are in 2024.
13 years later, and it's going strong. Well, yeah, that was just briefly. I mean, when I was first introduced to you by Gene ahead of my trip out there, and I looked at the website and that was what struck me. And as a person who my company Redbeard, there's one similarity is there's this interest in bringing different modalities together. Most of those aren't class type formats. That's more kind of therapeutic work. But I went to the Still and Moving Center website, and I was just like, wow, here's hula, here's some aerial classes, here's body work, here's martial arts, Tai Chi, just the breadth of activities kind of under one roof, so to speak. And I was like, oh, this is speaking my language, having these things kind of brought together. So just an amazing concept. Tell us a little bit about the name, because I'm guessing that has meaning for you.
Yeah, it's a swish, paintbrush kind of swish,
right?
Dot in the center, and the name Still a Living Center is very much connected with that logo. The swish is the movement, and the dot is the still center. So the concept is that in the midst of our body's motion, we are able to find a still center. And by practicing that in a movement practice, we don't just talk about like the slow yoga Tai Chi practices. Like Nia, we can really get moving. Still find that still center.
Right.
So it's really in the midst of active motion in some cases.
Yeah.
That idea is that our practice of doing that in the studio is something that we can take out into the world. So we walk out that door, all of a sudden we're in busy Honolulu, everything's in a swirl around us, And we know how to hold our still center.
Stillness. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the meaning behind still and moving center.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. How has it grown over those years? I mean, so you launched and, and to me now there's this massive programming, and then, you offer a lot online. I wonder if some of that had to do with, I wonder if the pandemic changed. I mean, you have teachers from all around the world offering on part of the virtual programs. And of course you have full programming live. What's been the evolution of that?
We closed our doors on March 17th of 2020 due to the pandemic and not wanting to be, part of spreading it. And we reopened on March 22nd, 5 days later, as an online studio. And within a couple of weeks, we had all of our classes online.
Yep.
And we gained a great international following. A number of people had already visited us when they came to Honolulu as travelers, visitors.
Yeah.
And so they found us online, and then a number of other people joined us. And then all of a sudden now we had access to teachers that we hadn't had access before, such as yourself, over in Colorado, being able to teach at our studio.
Right.
So it was a real anchor for many, many, many of our students, as well as our teachers. We always give time before and after class for, conversation, for community building. And I think that's one of Still Living Center's great heart strengths, is that we build community. It's not just about moving the body.
Yeah.
There's a real warmth that probably you were able to experience.
Without question. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just have the best teachers, and people really, I think, recognize that, and wonderful staff, really caring staff. And so then coming out of the pandemic, a little bit of tapering of the online participation, as people want to be out in the world in their own hometowns and so on. And yet it's great. Sometimes the people who I have online taking classes are right in Honolulu, but it wasn't convenient for them to leave home that day. So they joined me online and for other classes as well. So my other thing that happened during the pandemic was I really wanted to be able to have a page on our website where I could let people know about other mindful movement classes.
Okay.
And maybe this is a good little moment to say that I think a moving meditation is maybe an overly high expectation for me to expect of all our teachers to lead all of their students into moving meditations.
Sure. Okay.
And yet everybody can lead a mindful movement class.
Right.
And so when I wanted to create this website that would talk about all these other places where people could take mindful movement classes, I realized, well, our reputation is really important to me. I really vet every teacher who comes under our roof, and I train them in, give them kind of pointers about how to make their classes more mindful and so on.
Right.
And how do I know whether these people in these other movement studios and gyms and so on are teaching?
Equally vetted. Yes, I understand. Yeah.
I think if I know that they're Feldenkrais trained,
right?
Okay, I know that they are
you have a certain understanding of what they've brought in.
Yes, because I know how intimately Feldenkrais teachers are trained over their 4 years of training to really tune into body sensation.
Right.
And I know how the practice was crafted by Moshe Feldenkrais, who understood the human nervous system so exquisitely, so well. And, he was one of the forefathers of neuroplasticity.
Definitely.
So if they're Feldenkrais trained, okay, they're doing mindful movement. But pretty much other than that, I mean, we've got yoga teachers in the world who, go to yoga competitions to see who can be the bendiest pretzel. And then so many people have endured injuries in yoga classes that are not being taught mindfully. And so I'm just going, like, how do I know what body is certifying whether, certain teachers are mindfully
have a mindfulness found, a real mindfulness orientation. Yeah.
Yes. In their movement practice, are they being mindful in their movement practice? We're not talking about this kind of mindfulness going to your, different retreats.
Not simply still meditation. You're talking applied in a movement domain.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I was waiting outside a studio to sub for a NIA class for somebody, and there was a CrossFit gym that I was looking into, and I was watching all these 20, 30-year-old somethings with these big kettlebells, and they're just swinging them down between their legs, over their heads, just with reckless abandon. And I'm just, this is such, herniated disc waiting to happen.
Right.
It's this terrifying to me, and I'm, who is training these people or not training?
Right.
But they could be trained. The coaches of these people could be trained to be leading these people, and so much more mindful, safe movement.
Okay.
And it just kind of went, I guess we're going to have to, open a place that certifies people as mindful movement coaches and instructors.
Got it.
So, that was the genesis of
this is the birth of the Academy of Mindful Movement. Yeah. For you regular listeners to the podcast, you know that about half of these episodes focus on TRE, tension and trauma releasing exercises. And I wanted to make sure that you know about the Redbeard TRE certification program, our educational platform to certify others. And we have both an online version of that I teach, as well as an in-person version of the training that my colleague Ellen McKenzie teaches in Madison, Wisconsin. My next online certification training is beginning August 3rd and 4th, 2024. That's the first of 3 modules. And the way the certification program works is it's about a 10 to 12 month program divided into 3 phases of learning, each with a weekend connected to it, and then some one-on-one work with me and people on my team to support your learning journey. TRE has been a life-changing modality for myself. It's open to people with any background. I wanted to make sure you know about the program. You can find more information at redbeardtre.com. Launched, so it's happening.
Yeah, I got together with Douglas Grosser, who's been in academics his entire career. We created a curriculum for level 1 mindful movement instructor training. It's a 40-hour training. It takes folks who are coaches or instructors of movement from virtually any field. There's a little bit of a question. I don't know what I'm going to do if I get someone whose movement practice is really dedicated to violence, because that one of the principles behind the academy, one of the pillars of the academy, is nonviolence.
Sure. Okay.
And if it's deliberately striving to damage the human body, it just doesn't fall under the purview of mindfulness. But anyway, short of that, it takes experienced instructors, coaches, and has them use these very specific mindfulness techniques in motion and apply it to their movement practice. It's very interactive. It's a 40-week course that is 1 hour a week of independent study, 2 hours with the whole group. It's an online course. It started during the pandemic, and we have had graduates from all over the world and all different kinds of movement practices. And then 1 hour a week is with half the group in a pod where you're even doing more. And so each week you're having a chance to apply a few different mindful movement techniques to your practice, and then you teach your practice to your fellow trainees. So we've had people teaching hula and belly dance, but also tennis. You know, we all have our imaginary tennis racket. We've had people teaching us aerial, and we're either on the floor or in a chair. We've learned hockey, mindful hockey from other trainees, etc.
Yeah.
And so everybody gets the practice over and over of applying these different techniques to their practice.
Right.
Well, do you want to hear a little bit about?
I want to hear a lot about it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we teach to the whole human being.
Okay.
So many times in a movement practice, we think that we're just training a person's body.
Okay.
And we're also much deeper and richer than that. We have to approach our movers from this multidimensional perspective.
Right.
So in terms of the body, though, we're really paying attention to body sensation, using that body sensation to guide our movement in safe and effective ways. And also, when I say effective, it doesn't mean that we're just always toning it down. And sometimes, you know, like when I was in that seniors aerobics class,
right.
As I listened to my body and I started getting back in shape,
right,
I began really pumping it up.
Ramping it up, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's what my body was telling me to do. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but this is what I'm being asked to do.
I'm being led. I'm being called to
yes.
This way. Yeah.
So all these different ways of cueing people to be listening to body sensation and doing something about the information that they're getting.
Yep.
Because these bodies of ours are like living instruction manuals.
Okay.
They always telling us what they want and what they don't want, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And so much of our training, I think, in our lives is usually on blocking that out.
Yep.
And here we're saying, invite it in.
Yeah.
Invite it in. And don't override it by saying, no pain, no gain.
Right.
Pain is just weakness leaving the body.
Yeah.
Pain is an informant.
Right.
And there are different kinds of pain. There's discomfort that's telling you maybe slow down or go easy. Being able to distinguish between a discomfort and a pain is an important thing. I mean, you need to do a little bit of breaking down of the muscles to strengthen them, right?
Sure.
For example. But,
right.
Okay, so for the body, we're really teaching attention to body sensation.
Yep.
A big thing for the mind, and this is something I really gained from the NIA practice, is that we as instructors can set an intention for ourselves and for our students.
Yep.
And that acts as, I want to say something like a zip line that carries us from one portion of our movement practice to the next.
Okay.
So, and I had a really kind of fun anti-example of it. I once went to a NEA teacher's class, and she said, all right, students, our intention today is to move from our body center, our dantian, our hara. And so we're down here, moving from my body center all through class. And like, oh, I've never done this, footstep.
From your center before. Yeah.
Moving from this low body center.
Yeah.
And I'm having all these cool kind of discoveries as I'm doing. I didn't hear a word from her about moving from center.
Right.
Her seeding that intention.
Yeah.
Like, it was just very, I don't know, like revelatory to the way I was moving every piece of choreography she was taking us through.
Right.
And then we get to the end of class, and she realizes, oh yeah, I'm supposed to close with my intention. And I see her eyes kind of go. And she goes, so today, students, we're working with expressive arm and hand movements.
Right. She'd forgotten the theme for the day. Yeah.
She forgot her intention.
Right.
However, the fact that she had said it even just at the beginning gave me as her student something to focus my mind. Like she was doing a routine I'd done many times before.
Right.
I could have just gotten bored. Oh, yeah, I know this move. I know that. But the fact that now I'm moving from my low body center to do all these moves.
Yeah.
Really engage my mind, my imagination, the body connection was being forged all the way through. So this is one of the ways that we work with the mind, is teaching people this difficult use of an intention from the beginning to the middle to the very end of whatever your movement session is. That becomes a meditation in itself. We call it continuity of consciousness. Mm-hmm. That's attention to sensation is one of the pillars. Continuity of consciousness for the mind is one of the pillars.
Yeah.
I've already mentioned nonviolence to you.
Right.
And that's at every aspect of the human being.
Right.
Nonviolence to body, to the emotional nature, the heart, nonviolence to the mind. And then also joy. That's the fourth of the pillars. Is joy. And that comes with a spontaneity and a playfulness. And, that's actually, I think so much of the time we think of meditation, we think of mindfulness, we think of something kind of sober.
Right. Yes.
In point of fact, when there's joy, there's laughter, and you even know this from TRE, from the sense of tremor. When we laugh, we're releasing all of these tensions and traumas, right?
Right.
And it also brings us to the present moment.
Right.
When we're playing, we are so in the moment, and we're using the imagination, and we're very alive and very present. So that is actually getting a lot to the essence of mindfulness.
Right. Can I interrupt for a moment? Because your example reminded me of mine. So my version of the I'm quite familiar with the sober the sobriety of meditation through my Zen practice and Zen training. It's within a tradition, and there's good reasons for its practices and whatnot. But I spent a decade or more kind of really focusing in that way. And my example of the counter, without a lot of, this is also, some of it's connected to sort of Japanese culture, was a little bit understated and things like this. But so to me, the counterpoint was, I don't know, somewhere maybe when I was about 30 or something like that, somebody invited me to an ecstatic dance class, and I didn't even know what that was. And if I had known what it was, I probably wouldn't have gone. But
Led to the hills.
I was stupid enough to go, so to speak. But anyway, so I joined. This was in Madison, Wisconsin, and I joined an ecstatic dance class. And I'm certain you know a little bit about the ethos of ecstatic dance. It's just free. There's music and there's free movement, and it's not meant to be performative. It's simply an invitation to move. And some people dance excitedly. Some people rest on the floor. Some people meditate. It's sort of like anything goes. And the first class, I was like kind of trying to find, my only reference points had been maybe like dancing at weddings or something like that. So this wasn't that. So, okay. So I came back for a second class, and at a certain point, I caught the idea, which was nobody cares what you're doing, but something inside is leading you. And I just became, I was passionate about it for a few years. And but for me, the funniest thing was I thought my former monk self would just be jaw dropped, that I'd be, moving and grooving and hooting and hollering and expressing joy in this way. So anyway, your comments just reminded me of my own, having to figure that out, that there's both things have so much that meditation can be buoyant and joyous as well. So just a quick thought there.
Yeah. Well, from having a fairly rigorous spiritual practice and metaphysical training, that is also meant to be very much applied to the world. I studied Theosophy for many decades.
Right.
I actually, as I was progressing with the Nia practice, started feeling a bit heretical, in the sense that there is quite a bit of asceticism that is taught. And
I see. In Theosophy, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because Theosophy draws from all the world's major traditions,
right,
philosophies, and religions. And so many of those are taking that monk-like henna.
I see.
And so this was an inner conflict for me.
I see.
For a long time. And I couldn't figure out why Nia was so focused on first loving the body, because I thought we were supposed to just transcend our attachment to the body.
Yeah.
Right? And then as I became more acquainted and more involved in the world and the people of the world, and I began to realize how many people of this world have suffered incredible abuse to the body.
True.
And how devastating that is to one's sense of self and ability to even connect to the body, let alone love the body.
Right.
And I started to recognize just what a magnificent vessel this body is, and that is taught in Theosophy. It's an incredible vessel, vehicle. The thing is, don't get attached to it. Like the body is a temple. Well, what do you do at a temple? You worship the divine. You don't worship the temple. At the temple. The temple is there. It's a place in which you can worship.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, what I came to realize, the more I did this practice of Nia, and then I was, once I opened Still and Living Center, I was also doing hula, and I was doing Tai Chi, and I was doing yoga, Feldenkrais. I began to be aware of the fact that when I am observing all of these body sensations, for example,
Right.
and remember, mindfulness has to do with the power of observation.
Right.
The more I'm aware of myself observing these body sensations and guiding my movement appropriately, the more I'm aware of all these emotions that are going on inside of me. Like I'm having this joy or this really poignant song comes on, just weeping as I'm moving and dancing. I'm watching that emotion going on, and I'm watching myself following this intention in the mind. I started realizing, gosh, I just became a lot more intuitive. I actually was understanding different spiritual texts at a deeper level. It was like having the opposite effect of what I thought. Oh, I'm focusing too much on my body, but actually,
it opened a bunch of doors for you. Yeah.
This power of the observer. And I think one of my favorite quotes is, and I can't remember, it's Shelley or Emerson who says it, but I am the eye with which the universe beholds itself and knows itself divine. I am the eye by which the universe beholds itself and knows itself divine. And so that, actually, that power of the observer, I guess I can refer to that as self-awareness.
Right.
And so I gave you the 4 pillars of the Academy.
Right.
Attention to body sensation, continuity of consciousness, nonviolence, joy, and then the root is self-awareness.
Can you relate that? We in the beginning we teed up the word self-coaching, which caught my ears.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's related. Can you? How do you define that term? And it's it's in the title of the book, the art of self-coaching. So, what does that mean?
Well, first, I think it starts with a stance of something where I like to call being a body whisperer. If you think of a horse whisperer, what are some of the qualities of a horse whisperer? The horse whisperer loves the horse, takes care of the horse.
Right.
Well, the horse whisperer respects that horse.
Right.
The body whisperer respects the body. And the horse whisperer has a vision for what that horse is capable of, that the horse itself might not know it's able to do this. Let's say it's a jumper.
Yeah.
The horse whisperer can see how this horse could be, leaping over these barriers and so on. And the horse doesn't know it can do it yet.
Right.
That's kind of the stance of somebody who's a body whisperer too. They see what the body could do,
right,
and the body doesn't know it yet.
Right.
So that's kind of a stance to start from, as being a body whisperer.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And then what we do is we have access to this observer aspect of ourselves. We often don't access it, but it's there for us to access it.
Sure. Yes.
And so I thought maybe I would read you a little.
Please do. Oh,
little
man,
passage from the book.
Yeah, no, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
And so this is an example of self-coaching. It's not only self-coaching the body, but you're going to hear also about self-coaching the emotional nature and the mind of it too.
Great.
So we'll start out, though, with the body. So every morning, part of my get up, greet the day morning ritual is to do 10 sun salutations, yoga sun salutations, in a very specific way at sunrise.
Okay.
And since I've just rolled out of bed, I often have cranky little places in the body that are complaining. I listen to those complaints and I adjust. So, like, my low back is pinging today. Okay, so I'm careful to tighten my buns as I do my upper back arch to protect that lower back. Support it. My left ankle's feeling weak, and I put more weight into my right front foot.
Okay.
A step into my warrior pose, so I'm not putting as much pressure onto that back left ankle.
Yeah.
Or my right shoulder socket's feeling vulnerable, so that's when I'm pushing back into child's pose, instead of doing this hard extension through the shoulder, I just kind of gently pull my tail backward to get into that child's pose. So I'm always doing all these little tiny mini modulations as I'm going through the different aspects of my sun salutation, according to what information the body's giving me.
Right.
So I'm having these dialogues with my body. And And before I go into it, I tell my body, and this is part of the self-coaching, is I tell my body, I'm going to take care of you. And I always do. If the body gives me this...
Reliable. You don't break your promise. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really reliable. So my body knows it can count on me for that. So also, I have these dialogues in my self-coaching with my emotions and with my mind. And so a few mornings ago, I got up and my observer self heard a pretty loud inner signal. I just don't feel like doing those sun salutations today. So my coaching self, I like to talk about there's an observer self, and then there's this coaching self.
Coaching self, okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. So the coaching self says, who said that? and my body's this eager little puppy and it's going, oh, I want to do it. Let's do our sun salutations.
Yeah.
But both my mental and my emotional natures objected.
Okay.
And so my coaching self worked out this little deal. And so my coaching self talks to the body and says, body, will you be okay if we forego, just for one day, our sun salutations? And I promise I will take you out for a walk this afternoon. And the body goes, yes, I can wait.
Okay.
And I go, mind, emotions, I think it's the two of you who have been griping for the last couple of weeks now about these sun salutations. Right. How about if we give you a complete break for sun salutations today? Will you be willing to come back enthusiastically tomorrow? So my emotions say, I was dreading doing them today. I can't feel tomorrow yet. I just really don't want to do them today.
Okay.
And then my mind, when I ask my mind goes, well, a ritual does not need to be a rut. I think I would be exercising more free choice if I did no sun salutations today. I think I will choose to do the sun salutations again tomorrow, though, after a rest today.
I love the personalities of these parts. Yeah.
So my coaching self called off the sun salutations for the morning.
Right.
It took my body for a walk in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And everybody was happy. The body, the mind, the emotions, they were all very happy.
Yeah.
To go back to sun salutations the next day. So the coaching self with access to the observer self's view of
Perception. Yeah.
of the sensations, of the feelings, emotional, and of the thoughts. That's where the coaching self is getting them, is from the observer self, right? He's observing all these little voices and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the coaching self has this ability to coach its way through. And that would be just a funny little example of self-coaching.
It's a wonderful example. And what I love about that illustration is it's such a common experience, right? Oh, I don't feel like doing X, Y, or Z this morning, or almost everybody can relate to that. But how many of us go through a self-reflective process to really listen? Well, what's going on? What's being said? What's being expressed? And so the way you parsed that is such a lovely example of the kind of listening and reflecting and responding that's possible. So I love that. It's such a great illustration. Yeah.
Yeah. So hence the name of the book will be Mindful Movement, the Art of Self-Coaching.
I love it. So when can we look forward to its release?
Yeah, I don't quite know that yet. I've got over 100 pages printed out that I'm in the process of kind of organizing and seeing what the presentation modality is going to be for the book, whether it's going to be in a journal kind of format, a workbook, a read it.
Yeah.
Well, it's still in formative stages, so it's a bit early for me maybe to talk about it. I don't know. I think it's a good idea to share, though.
I'm glad you did. It certainly feels, alive for you right now. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
I want to respect our time boundaries, so we should probably bring this rich conversation to a close. But we'll put all kinds of information in the show notes, and people will easily be able to find the center and how to contact you for more information. But I was going to ask for the Academy of Mindful Movement. Yes. Is there any forthcoming? If somebody was interested in that, are there new cohorts that begin several? So maybe just let us know how somebody could join that.
Sure. Well, academyofmindfulmovement.com.
Okay.
Our next 40-hour training will be starting on July 29th.
Okay. All right.
July 29th. It's a 10-week course, and it's specifically geared for people who are movement coaches or instructors.
Right.
And we are cultivating different workshops and so on. And the book itself is geared more for any mover. They don't have to, be a coach or teacher of movement. This particular thing that is coming up next is it's a 40-hour training.
For people who are movement teachers or coaches or
coaches. And yes. And it does include body workers. We've had several body workers take it and graduate from it. And we will also be putting on our website very soon one or two lead up, like 2-hour workshops, so you could have a sample. A long one. We're taking it to the IDEA conference, the IDEA Fitness conference in July. So I am expecting it to fill up really quickly. So maybe your listeners will actually get a jump on it before everybody else.
Good. Well, act fast. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Reneé, this has been a real pleasure hearing all these different threads of your work. And so thanks so much for sharing.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you interested. It's wonderful to have you involved with Still and Living Center and the wonderful healing practice that you offer, and how your intentionality is to heal especially people who were the victims of the Maui fires this last August. So we're very grateful to you as well.
I was grateful for that opportunity very much. So, all right, great. Thanks, Reneé.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Redbeard Embodiment Podcast. To learn more, visit us at redbeardsomatictherapy.com or send me an email at alex@redbeardsomatictherapy.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, help spread the word by subscribing and sharing with others. Hope to see you next time.